Okay. Hey, Rowdies. Welcome back to Rowdy Rani. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And first off, I want to address the overwhelming support I've gotten from so many people, my friends, Shreyas' friends, and like people that don't know either of us and have just heard about us through social media.
TikTok, there were a
Yes,
lot of people that watched my little TikTok disclaimer, and so many people followed. I'm like, what? Okay, good. I like this.
yes. Shout out to whoever's from TikTok. Let us know who it is. But thank you guys so much. The support has been phenomenal, and it's been a really awesome just show of community and everybody coming together, which is exactly what we want to build here. So first off, thank you guys very much. Second off, as somebody who has just begun working in the emergency medical systems, everybody please stay safe, wear your mask, take care of yourself and your loved ones. It's a scary time out there, and I definitely feel like it's my responsibility as somebody working in the field to mention that to you guys and just let you know and keep doing what you're doing. I'm sure you guys are doing great, and I know quarantine is really tough, but wear your mask, be good, live happy. But anyways, getting to the very exciting topic at hand today. Obviously, the show is going to be discussing things of various depths and seriousness, but we're definitely starting off on a lighter note because it's what our audience wanted to hear. We put up an Instagram poll if
Yeah.
you guys saw it and you guys got to vote. And honestly, we had sort of a schedule laid out and like topics, and then
The show
Indian
arrived.
matchmaking
Yeah.
arrived on Netflix in
To be
its
fair,
glory.
you guys were pretty even. It was between Indian matchmaking and toxic masculinity. That said, I really wanted to use this phrase, which is why I just cut you off. But Indian matchmaking is basically the table of contents for the rest of the show's topics. So it covers everything, everything. So it's a very good starting point for us.
It's honestly, it's like a train wreck or like a car wreck. Like you want to look away, but you can't just because
Yeah.
of like the blasphemy that's happening. But seriously, so many problematic issues of the Indian community are addressed in this show. And while I totally understand that it's comedic because it's so cringy and terrible, and it's all of these values or concepts that we thought have been sort of outdated and like shifted to the side, and we've gotten rid of it or it doesn't exist anymore. I mean, it's kind of sad and like weirdly enlightening to see that, a lot of those ideas still exist. And there's so much issue with rhetoric and the way that we speak about marriage and all of that world in general in Indian culture. And just to preface this, I'm a very, very proud Indian person, and Shreyas is a proud Indian person as well. We're very
Indeed.
honored to be a part of this community, but that doesn't mean that we want better for this community. So that is the only reason why we're going to be like obviously really highlighting problematic things.
Yeah.
So disclaimer, don't come for me.
Yeah, and this is
Okay.
another little disclaimer, which like I do want to address sometime later, which I think is a separate topic, colonialism. So I'm just going to throw that in right there, where my friend Adishit brought this up. She's woke as hell. I love her. But basically, like the show is definitely produced from this lack of context, where no one really understands outside of the South Asian community that arranged marriage is a concept that has existed. That said, like it's never really been this problematic because let's be real, a lot of issues like casteism, colorism, classism, like the class divide, all of these things, even to some degree, probably even misogyny, has been like reinforced by Western colonization. And so with all of those ideas influencing the production of the show, like it's become a laughingstock to members of audiences who aren't us. Like we find it funny, but that's because we're critical of it. It's not just because it seems whack, which is what it seems like to any Western audience who's not South Asian. And so we want to be very clear. We're not attacking the show or looking down on these by any means. We just think they need criticism and need change. So let's make that clear. No one come for us for, India bashing. That's not the point here.
Yeah, that's definitely not the point. Film and media is obviously very important because, like we've seen, I mean, when I was younger, like Slumdog Millionaire came out and every non-Indian person was like, oh, so that's what India's like. And it's like, no, you're seeing this like really small microcosm of like a 2-hour film and you're expecting it to encompass this whole country. And there's never going to be a point where you can encompass a whole country and a religion and a whole group of people within the time period of a TV show or a film. But it is really important because a lot of our ideas of the world around us, or maybe communities that we're not a part of, is generated and constructed by film and media, which is why it's really important to us to be breaking those things down and to be really actively talking about those things, because, you know, I personally have seen how film and media can impact young people and how it can even impact older people, people of our parents' generation, our grandparents' generation. You know, when you see a story play out and it's third person and it's not your story, a lot of the time we're so unbiased watching it that we're more receptive to the things that are being said and that are being preached. So it's very, very important. I know personally, to me, I have great interest in film and media, but it's very important to be careful about what we produce and what we put out there. And the reason that we're criticizing this is so that, you know, these people that are in the positions of being able to produce these things know and are aware that, hey, we're not going to stand for this anymore. This is a whole new generation. We are rowdy in here. We are not going to stand for these sorts of things. And so we want to make sure the things that are being produced about our culture, our people, is something that's truly accurate to the beauty of everything that we have to offer. But that doesn't mean we are without problems. So without further ado, let us get into the breakdown of this show. So we're just going to kind of take it by character.
We have no script. Let's be very clear on this.
We never have a script. If anyone knows me out there, you know very well I can't speak off a script. So we don't have a script. But I have a list of characters, which is why I'm like kind of looking at a weird direction. And we're just going to kind of go one by one and like address and like say thoughts and sort of have a conversation about it.
Yeah, I'll be looking up at my notes here of my live tweeting at myself on my entire reaction to the show, because it is... Yeah, let's just start. Also, please comment if you want me and Shreyas to do live reaction videos to watching things, because I honestly really want to do it, and I think it would be super hilarious. Yeah, we would love to do that, but I think the only thing is we got to find like something that's a little bit older, because I feel like there's still a healthy amount of the community that may not have watched the show yet, if only as like a pushback to say, I don't want to watch this nonsense. I know, I tried to resist it, and then my sister put me into it. So. Yeah. But we watched it, and so we're here to do an episode about it. But spoiler alert, we're going to say things about characters and things that happen in the show. So if you've not seen it and you want to experience it in all of its train wreck and misery, please wait to watch this episode. Yeah, I will be trying my best to introduce spoiler tags at certain parts and like timestamps in the comments. This will be annoying, but that way you can potentially skip ahead. And that said, I will be trying to layer my commentary enough that it's not too spoilerish, but like at the end of the day, we're going to critique the characters. And so you'll already go in with some opinion of them, even if you haven't watched the show. Alrighty. Yes. Okay. Character number one. And this man boggles my mind. Oh, we're starting with a man? Oh, Akshay. Oh, okay. We're going straight. We have to start with Akshay. We're going straight to the mama's boy. Okay. Akshay, I honestly was watching a preview of his clip talking with Seema Auntie. Yeah. And I really thought he like couldn't speak. Like I thought, like I didn't know, because he just was like, I swear he was staring like this, and he looked like he was uncomfortable. I honestly thought he was on some sort of drugs. Sorry if there's younger viewers, but I really did. I was really concerned for his health. It was very spacey. And hey, man, if you're a spacey person, that's fine. But I think when, you know, you're that spacey and your future is being discussed, like I'm a little worried for you. Yeah. But I think as the show progressed and we saw his mom and how aggressive she is about him getting married, oh my God, I think it kind of like made sense to me. Like, I think that's a defense mechanism of just dissociation, because you just can't bear to be in it all the time. I honestly don't even know if it was that, because, like, yes, I would run away from home, but the thing is, he seems so accepting of her entire status. Like, I feel like there's a line between when you're accepting and feeling awkward looking into camera versus when you're not, because, for example, there's a small scene, I already said I was going to try and avoid spoilers, but I have to talk about this, where they're sitting at the dinner table with, like, his first match, right? And then the other person's like dad is like trying to make like a half joke, being like, yeah, your mom seems a little strict. Like, you know, I'm a little laid back. Haha. And then he's just mute, just entirely mute. And his mom's just sitting there like, no, I'm not like that. He's very free. He's very free. He's allowed to do a lot of things. And he just keeps sitting there laughing. But like, it's not like the awkward, like, haha, the dude was kind of right, but I'm not going to say that in front of my mom. It was like, dad that said that. Yeah. Oh no, I think it was the other. It was the wife's or the bride's dad. Yeah. That was problematic either way. That was a whole thing. Anywho. Yeah, not a fan of the situation. I think the biggest thing
from Akshay's like character takeaway, and again, we're gonna do our best to keep this short, but honestly, there's so much to talk about.
There's a lot to unpack.
So we'll do our best. But I think the biggest thing with him is just like really bringing to the forefront like how almost performative Indian social culture is in terms of like, you know, he's like 25, and like for reference, I am 22, and I am nowhere ready to like be in that like sort of phase of thinking or anything like that. And obviously my parents are super great and do not care at all. But my mom was really surprised too, because she was like, oh, well, how old is he? Is he like kind of like 35, like, you know, almost getting to his 40s? And his mom is really worried. And we were like, no, he's 25.
Yeah.
And his mom was so aggressive about him getting married. And I think like it obviously didn't matter to her whether he was interested in it or not. It obviously didn't matter to her who the person was and if she was going to be happy fitting into their family. I think she was very focused on she needs to be able to fit into our family, but not like whether that's going to be a good place for her as well.
There was, I think the biggest thing that was also interesting was how when she was talking with her friends, she was very big about how she feels like she hasn't done enough to set him up because everyone else has done it. And it's like, it's this weird peer pressure thing where, you know, that in itself is a bad mentality to have, but to think that there were enough environmental factors to cause that mentality to arise in the first place is just such a thing. And then I just lost it when, because like the other brother, the older brother, had gotten married, I think they said like 12 years ago when he was 23. So, you know, math, he's 35, whatever. And then she connects it to saying that like when Akshay gets married, his older brother and his wife can finally have a kid. And I'm like, where's this is where I need to put in that meme of like the XY graph with no correlation on it.
Honestly, if anybody here understands that, please comment on this video and let us know what that was about, because I can assure you I have zero idea how that made any sense. She wanted her younger son to get married, so her older son and his wife, who are already married, obviously, can have a child. And I was like, well, what? And what I thought was really interesting too is she said at one point she like, I guess, I don't know if she said it or she like made a like allusion to it, but she was saying that if he gets married and then his brother has a kid, then his brother will be able to enjoy his wedding because he doesn't have a responsibility of children. Which, okay, so let's be real. I have a younger sister. Kids are responsibility. That is totally fair. But the fact that like it was so performative, like I just can't get over it. Like it's really just like such a weird laid out timeline. And if anybody has parents out there that are still sort of adhering to this idea and notion, I would honestly recommend having them watch this show because like I said, watching something in a third person perspective where you are not involved in the situation sort of gives you insight, I think, into like what's happening, and then you're able to draw conclusions for your own life. But really it really highlighted this thing of like, you know, your life is only allowed to start once you get married. Like that's when, or not even once you get married, I guess, once you have kids, because that's when you've like fulfilled your responsibilities as a human being.
It seems like it's this escape as like a solution, like an end goal in life where it's like it shouldn't be like, it's a milestone event where I'm not disregarding that by any means, but it's not like this checkbox where, you know, if you complete it within a certain time, you get a better score on it. Like it doesn't work like this.
It's not like a race to the finish. You know,
it's just so you do not get an Xbox achievement for getting married. Sorry, don't happen.
I can't. But so basically, my whole character understanding of Akshay is it's a huge highlight to the performative nature of Indian culture. They want you to do things sometimes for the sake of doing things in a social setting. So again, they can go to these like auntie brunches and be able to brag and say, oh, he's finally at that stage. Oh, he's finally made it there. But let's be clear, it's not. And this social like performative culture exists in so many different spheres. So when we talk about things here, we hope that you guys sort of, you know, take it home and sort of think about it in context of your own life. We know that we are speaking about it in the South Asian realm, and most of you might be South Asian. But if you're not, there's so many different things that happen in people's day-to-day life that is this social performative nature. And hopefully you guys are like able to connect and think about it and sort of realize what those things are, and honestly kind of start disconnecting yourself, you know. That's kind of how our generation is going to go on to be, you know, better parents in terms of not putting these specific pressures on our kids. Hopefully, I don't think there's ever going to be a time in my life where I expect that from my child.
I'd like make fun of them, like being like, "Yo, get on it," but like, it's just
Right,
like,
but
it's not gonna be like it's like my mom. Okay, I will literally hang out with my friends, right? I will hang out with anyone. I will hang out with my friend named Nihar. I will hang out with Gordon. I will hang out with Zach. I will hang out with Chad. It doesn't matter who. I'm naming all guy names on purpose right now because she will literally be like, "Are you sure you didn't mean Zachy or Nihar?"
I
And it's like,
love this.
yeah, exactly. So it's like
My
that
favorite.
is funny. I do not feel any pressure from that. I feel extremely annoyed and irritated, but I don't feel any pressure from it. And that's the entire point where it should not be this
Right.
like, hey, go get this. It's not like school where it's like, hey, go get your bachelor's. No,
Yeah.
it's not, hey, go get a bride. It doesn't just work like that.
Yeah, and I think it's also obviously she's not saying to you like you are putting a wrench in the whole idea of things, you're holding things up. Like there is no grand scheme of things, guys, please. If there's anything that college has taught me, and I just got my diploma a couple of days ago in the mail, but I'll tell you the biggest thing is that timelines don't mean anything. You know, everyone do your thing, your own speed, do the things that make you happy. That is what we are all about. So yeah, please, you know, start realizing and recognizing these things. And hopefully this show is a catalyst for having even more of these discussions. I know it has been on social media, which is why we were excited and we were like totally down to do this as our first.
Gonna ride the trend, get a couple of views going.
Riding the wave. But yeah, so that's that on Akshay. Okay, next up. Also, Shreyas totally doesn't know the order of people that I'm saying.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. I was gonna say I had a segue, but okay, take it.
Did you have a segue?
Well, I was just gonna say because I feel like we can get it out the way. Geeta. Because I don't know why I associate it. Geeta was the I guess I'll take this over now, and then you can have your second character. Where she's the like second matchmaker that Seema brings in. Look, this is a whole fake out. This is like, you know, Jukes, the entire show, Jukes left, and then they hit us with the haymaker from the right. It's a whole thing. But so Geeta is the other matchmaker who's, you know, more modernized, and she comes in to help Seema find it for a girl who's very modernized. And by that, I mean, you know, she owns her own business and like, you know, kind of has a sense of self. I was going to go with something that's a little bit harsher, but I don't want to be that mean. But yeah, so she brings in Geeta, right? And so then Geeta sits down and we're like, oh, okay, sick. So she's like more modern. She's ready for Disc Girl. And it's like, if Seema specifically like handed her off, then like, you know, we can anticipate some things because Seema, whatever her issues are, seems to have done pretty well with these matches or whatever. But like, so we get to Geeta, and then she talks to this girl, and she's like, okay, but listen, you must understand. The woman naturally compromises more emotionally. She brings more emotionally to the table. So like, if he's like suddenly going someplace else, especially in the first few years, you have to be willing to compromise because that's early in the relationship. So you have to make those changes. And I'm just sitting there like, bruh, she has her own business. She literally has her own business. That is her child. She's at least 88% more successful than any dude you will bring to the table.
Okay, Geeta, we have problems.
Yeah.
I was so excited for a second.
I know. I was just like
so excited.
Yes.
My sister and I were watching this show, and my sister is 13, and so she has a very different viewpoint than me. But we were both like, all right, finally something modern, something like more of 2020 is going to be in the show. And, you know, Geeta walked in and, you know, she was fighting Seema on some of the points that were being said.
I was like, yes.
Queen. Yeah, you know, she was kind of fighting her on like the things that I considered to be problematic. And so I was like, okay, well, Geeta, maybe we have hope. And the minute she was faced with a young woman who started her own business, who is independent and is, you know, in that realm of like getting her stuff done, which honestly applause, because that's brilliant. You know, we love entrepreneurship. We're here for it, whoever that might come from, but especially for women to get in that industry and to make it, that is phenomenal. And it was so, to me, demeaning to hear her like use that almost as a weapon against Ankita, who is this, you know, brilliant woman who's getting into this industry and really, you know, making strides. And so I don't know, I kind of felt like personally offended for her in a sort of way, because it's such a regressive thing. And please, guys, take this away from this moment. Nobody needs to compromise. Compromise is not what it's about. I think it's about collaboration. I think two individuals can have and hold their own ideas and ideals for their life. And if those two, concepts jive together and you guys can collaborate on ideas that will work for both of you, that is great. That's what to me is considered healthy. And that doesn't mean that like, if somebody is moving, you can move with them if you feel that's okay. But it's not a black and white realm of, oh, my husband is moving within the first 2 years of me getting married, I have to stop everything going on. Like, no, I would expect there to be a conversation and say, hey, this is what's going on. Let's collaborate and figure out something that's going to work for both of us and both of our ambitions. So please stop teaching women that them being ambitious is something to be frowned upon, because it is not. Again, that is, that's what Rowdy Rani is centric about, is especially me as a woman, as an Indian woman, hearing that, I'm being rowdy or I'm kind of stepping out of my bounds or my box that I'm supposed to live in and doing things. No, we are not here for that at all. So honestly, Ankita was one of my favorite characters because she was so great. She was so intelligent. She knew what she wanted in life. And I totally respect that. And I think she displayed a really healthy balance of wanting to be involved in business and take care of her business, as well as being open to meeting people. And I think obviously, the person they found for her didn't work out, which is fine, because I think people have to be at the point in their lives where they're ready to do certain things. But just her mindset seemed so positive to me until Geeta came and just like made it,
destroyed it.
But she came into it, I think, so great. Like,
no, I loved it. And that's one thing where I thought it was really a different thing from the rest of the show, where because we do have to consider that these are people, however much we should talk about the stigma of marriage being forced at a certain age, or like it's the correct time for it, like they are older, right? Some of these people are like 30 plus, and so especially given the stigma that is provided to them in their societies, they do want to skip a couple parts in the process. So like a lot of the conversations go straight to like serious, important stuff about marriage, which is where compromise is a thing, right? So we understand that, compromise is, we're not bashing on compromise in general, because, that does happen. But the idea is that there needs to be a conversation about it. It's a team effort. Compromise doesn't mean one person gives up something. It means one person is accommodating it for a period of time, ideally so that they can get it back later. It's like, right now, here's the greater of two goods. It's not what's the worst of two evils. That's what it should be like. So,
and I think that definitely people need to inherently decide what is intrinsic to them. And I think a lot of the time what we see is being in a culture that is so heavily societally influenced with like societal mindset and what, people around you are going to think and perceive about you being in a situation, is that, intrinsically as an individual, you sort of see these people losing that like grip and connection to what their ideals are and what's important to them. And even Ankita, who is so prepared and who is so like ready for the world, realized like her priority is her business. Like there's never, she's not right now in the stage where she's going to be like, I'm willing to give all of this up because a man has come into my life. And so it's very important to work on yourself. And I think that's what it really means when people say you need to work on yourself before you're in a relationship, is knowing what is important to you and your values and ideals that you want to adhere to. And then, collaborating and maybe, working. And there might be some compromise here and there, but I just think in general, like compromise means that you might be giving up something that is really important to you, which is what we're trying to move away from. And collaborate. Maybe there's details on the edges, which doesn't really matter, and you're willing to change. That's all cool. But Geeta was a whole problematic character. Ankita was one of my favorite characters. Thank God for Ankita in this show, because there was a few people that just like saved me, or else I wouldn't have.
Oh yeah, there are a few people who like, made it okay that you didn't have to pause mid-episode and like scream.
Yes. Yes. Thank the Lord for that. So speaking of the independent women, I want to move to the next character, who is Aparna.
Aparna,
I
She
have
was
thought.
everything. Okay, you go first. You go first. It's your show.
I just okay. You guys heard me totally rant about, independent women. I am all about it. Girl, go for it. I'm here for it. I love it. I support it. But again, I think this comes back to that performative nature. And I really don't think that Aparna was ready or even inherently willing to get married. And like, maybe this is just my perspective, but when somebody wants to get married and then doesn't make the connection that they would have to see their husband every day and they're like surprised by it, it kind of makes me question, you know, is this something that you are genuinely doing because you want to, or is this something because you're doing because you feel like you must perform it within this sphere? Because I think we kind of see that about her personality when she discusses that she hates being a lawyer, which
Yeah, which is
is a very, it's, it seems to be
she
very,
is a lawyer. Let's clarify that she is a lawyer and she hates being a lawyer.
yeah, she is a lawyer and she has this very, I guess, stereotypical personality of a lawyer who's very cutthroat and like down to business. And if there's any lawyers watching, I'm sorry, everybody can be a lawyer. It doesn't matter how you are,
Take a
but
joke, fam.
yeah, it's this sort of preset stereotype,
Yeah.
right? But I thought it was so odd when she was having that moment and saying, "Oh yeah, I don't enjoy law at all," and then she was
Yeah.
confused that her date
Joy
enjoyed
law.
being a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I think it's this, and we see this clip of her mom saying, "Don't disappoint me, don't get a B."
Her mom.
And honestly, if there are any non-Indian or non-South Asian people watching this, this is probably where they get those stereotypes from, is when they watch things like this.
Yeah.
That's not true. Please don't believe that. While there are some people who are very strict and very much like that, it's not a general thing, hopefully.
Yeah.
But that is so problematic, I think, to tell a very young child that you are tying all of their self-worth as a human being to their
Academia.
achievements. Yeah. And I think that that's something that, she's internalized from such a young age, that I need to achieve and I need to have this on my name tag and this is my status. And that's sort of like when I would have made it. And you see her say she's not like interested in growth in the very beginning of the series.
That's a whole. I gotta just quote this because this is just.
Yeah.
I don't think I have to change, grow, or evolve in a relationship. That okay. First of all, that is the entire purpose of a relationship. If you're looking for someone who literally agrees with you on everything, forget the huge deal breakers. We're not talking like racism or like general, empathy. We're not talking about these basic issues. Like, if you find someone who agrees with you on everything, be a little careful, because like that means there's no excitement. There's no actual like growth that can come from your relationship. And I mean, that's a whole other thing. But like, if you don't think that you're going to change as a person in a relationship, or that the other person isn't going to make you better, like that's a really flawed mindset to have. But
Yeah. It is
yeah,
it is about empowering and uplifting people, and
yeah,
that's what we say at the
it's a
end of our
partnership. That's the
review.
point of it.
Yeah, and you should be two people in something together with the idea that you're going to enjoy it together, and with the idea that, maybe you will learn things from the other person and the other person will learn things from you. And even if you're not talking about in a relationship with another person, even as a single person, we should all be open to growth. Like, stagnation is not what's getting anybody anywhere. And so again, to all of my friends who know me, I'm not into that sort of stagnant mindset of like, I'm done growing or I'm done evolving. We started this podcast and we've been super clear in saying that we're excited for our personal growth. We want personal growth and we want it through conversation with others.
Yeah.
That was kind of a huge red flag for me, like starting off.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with having an independent, powerful woman make her point clear. Like, there's nothing wrong with those things, and I do agree on some level that maybe, she's internalized this mindset that, she has to do it at this point in time. That said, I don't know if I'd entirely say that she doesn't want marriage, because like later in the show, she did get very humanized, I think, with some of the dates, where it definitely felt like, she was kind of opening up to them. That said, I think her rhetoric there was still something internalized where, she basically says like, yeah, I was tolerating them. Like, okay, look, that's it's a funny mentality to have. Like I might even say that to someone else where it's like I tolerate her, all right? I tolerate her all the time. But
Yeah, that's not like,
yeah, but like the thing is it's so clearly a joke, right? It's like, yeah, we have conflict, but it's like that's because it's just about stupid little things. It's never about, this idea of, am I okay with this person? Do I want to be with this person? Like having that mentality there is just so weird. And I think her entire lack of like social skill, I think, is also a thing because there's a point when she's on a date, right? And like it's going fairly well. They're going knife throwing and stuff. And so it's like they have a good conversation. He's talking about what he's passionate about. And then she seems like her reaction screams condescension when he's talking about him being a keynote speaker. And then after that, he talks about, hey, do you want to go grab a bite to eat? And there's a 2-second painful silence before she's like, yeah. And then it cuts to like one of those like office cams, of her in a separate room talking to camera. And she literally just goes, yeah, that's not the one for me. I will talk to you never. And it's like, whoa, like slow your roll. Like you could have just said, yeah, I didn't really feel like our interests aligned.
that is fine to not align with somebody, but when it comes down to like condescension, I have a problem with that. And I think that is also a very large cultural rhetoric that is part of the Indian, South Asian, Desi community. And I think it's very damaging and I think it's very toxic. And I think it's sort of grown into this like whole like cancel culture thing, which is again a different thing, which I don't believe in.
That's the entire point of the show, is to talk about the taboo topics that everyone kicks out as being like, oh no, we're not talking about this.
Right. Yeah, it was very odd to me. I mean, we've all interacted with people who we don't naturally gel with, which is okay. Like we're human. That's kind of the point of having so many different personalities on the planet, is that we're not going to get along with each of them. But yeah, I think it's very weird to just sort of be like, I will talk to you never because you have an interest that's different than mine. I mean, and obviously it wasn't something problematic. It wasn't, him being sexist or, him being condescending to her or anything like that. So I think that was a bit of...
the reasoning for it is entirely founded. Your interests aren't aligning. Like, because the thing was like, she's very firm in her beliefs and he's very outgoing and like fun and jolly or whatever, which she eliminated from her list of character traits she wants immediately. She's like, I don't want jolly. So there's nothing wrong with her entire reasoning for it, entirely founded. I'm not gonna hate on that just because like I don't personally agree.
No,
but her response, the execution of a response was garbage.
Yes, execution and rhetoric. I think with Aparna, the character learning sort of thing that I have for her is execution is so important. You guys, please understand that the words that you use and the things that you say and the way that you say them are so incredibly important. And it is, again, Shreyas was really right in saying that this episode is kind of like a table of contents for all these things that we want to discuss. And I'm really
This is probably going to be split into a couple parts, I think. Because we're a half an hour deep and I don't think we're anywhere near finishing.
Also, we can just cut that part.
Yeah.
They can be surprised to find out there's multiple episodes.
Yeah, whatever. Go on.
But definitely, please be aware of the rhetoric that you are using towards other people, because it can be hurtful, it can be damaging, and I think there's something in current, I guess, social climate where it's kind of cool to be like really straightforward and like, I don't take no crap from anybody thing. And it's great, girl, if you don't take crap, girl, guy, whoever it is. If you don't take crap, I'm happy for you. But that doesn't mean that you can be disrespectful and rude to others. Yeah. And so please, I think if you have any character learning from her, learn that rhetoric is important and the way that you use your words and speak your words to people is really important, and they remember it, and it's going to affect people. There's
nothing wrong with her stuff. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with her stuff off camera with her mom necessarily. I mean, maybe be cognizant of the fact that, this is a TV show, so still kind of be nice. But like the rhetoric at him, like just directly, even face to face, the sheer awkwardness, like, come on, everyone's had like a date go bad, especially girls. You've all had a date go bad. Yes. But like you can at least like fake it or, pull the classic, like, okay, my friend's got to go or whatever. Like you can find an excuse that is like kind enough to, get the message clear, but then not entirely just be like fuck off now. Like, like even if the date's going bad, you find a way to make it nice, right? You find an excuse. There's a method to do it that's not just no.
Caveat to this, please be aware that this does not apply if the person that you are with is very openly like misogynistic, is being sexist, is being racist. Any of those very large problematic things, don't be nice. Women, there's no expectation to be nice. If somebody
if it's that, stack a couple more rings for the date. That way you can get them a nice punch.
Yeah. No, don't. I mean, we're not trying to say be calm when it's a really big issue that's very obviously wrong and that people need to be enlightened on. But when it is something that it's another person's interest and it's a valid interest, it's quite like demeaning to say, oh, I'm going to talk to you never because you're a keynote speaker. Also, I think keynote speakers are really cool. So I don't really know what that's about.
Yeah, that's a personal.
But anyways, that is the scene for Aparna, guys.
Who you got?
Let's see. Okay, next on my list is Nadia. I loved Nadia. I think it was really interesting because with Nadia, I learned. Yes, honestly, Nadia was great. I wish the best for her. Sending good vibes for her, man. She was so sweet and kind, and gave people so many chances that honestly, I probably am not nice enough to give.
Guru. Sorry, go ahead.
What for me was a really important learning point from her is to see how like narrow-minded and like close-minded the Indian community is when people are of Indian origin, but they have been shifted around due to colonialism and all of those sorts of things. So obviously Nadia is Guyanese, and I really didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal. And it was so like on the face to me when Seemanti walked in and said like, oh, well, Nadia is Guyanese, so it's going to be hard. And I was like, girl, what? Like, what is it about your family growing in a different country, but having Indian origin and Indian culture that's going to make it hard for you to find her someone who accepts her? I mean, I felt like that was so sad and like narrow-minded.
That's one thing where it's like I do think colonialism has definitely influenced that idea of casteism and trying to keep it within our own communities. But like that, I don't know if this is me being super accepting or maybe even ignorant on some degree. But I feel like that I can understand because I don't think at any time there's going to be a radical change in assuming that you're willing to accept people whose like family values may not immediately reflect your own. I mean, like that. Hell, that's half the plot of Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham. Like that's the entire thing. But I understand it, and especially coming from Seema, who is very specifically part of that world where they care heavily about those things, and it's not just like because for us the entire dating scene is more the courting happens first. Like if your parents like, hey, text this person, like you might do it, but like you only take it seriously when it's your own personal interactions. So like that, I feel like that's an acceptable facet of it. And that's just one of those things where, matchmaking in general perhaps needs to change. But like, that I can understand. So I think it's like, I understand. I still don't think it's, a great take, but I can understand why she might have said it's difficult for me to find someone.
Yeah, I don't know. Personally, again, I'm very sort of out there with certain views and I just kind of don't roll with it. But I didn't feel like, her being Guyanese was something that was going to be this huge thing because I think, I could be wrong, but being on the show, everybody was Indian or like of Indian origin or descent. And so at that point, I'm like, well, you're Indian. I don't think if, I stay in the United States and have kids and then, someone's like, oh, well, these people are American. We're going to have a hard time, meeting people. I don't think that's true. Like, obviously, I grew up very Indian and my family maintained those values. And even if, you feel like you're not maintaining those values, I just felt like that was a really sort of like sad and like narrow perspective on things. But she still found dates, just not with guys that we love.